Hi everybody, Stephanie here at Sewing with Stephanie, the place where we make sewing cool, modern, and fun. Today I'm going to show you how to drape two basic collars on your mannequin with any design line, neckline that you want. I'm going to show you how to do a crew neck and a V-neck, but using this very basic skill, you can create really any shape you want, a wider neckline, scoop, you name it. Before we get started, make sure you hit subscribe below and like this video so that other people can watch my tutorials. And make sure you follow me at thestylesafari.com and at thestylesafari on Instagram to see what I'm making next. In order to get started draping your basic collar, you need a thin strip of muslin about 4 inches wide, and it can be as long as you'd like, depending on the length of your collar. I've used my bias satin ribbon here to create two faux shirt shapes, so one that's a traditional crew neck and then one that's a V-neck, showing you how using this technique you can create a basic collar for both shapes. On my muslin, I've marked the straight grain as well as the cross grain about 1 inch up from the bottom of my strip of muslin. It's really important to mark the cross grain because that's what we're going to use to match up to our design lines. So I'm going to take the part where the straight grain and the cross grain intersect and pin it right where the center back and my design line meet. And then I'm going to smooth up from there, marking the top of my collar, right, the straight grain on the center back neck. We are going to play with the width and height of the collar after, but first we want to drape the bottom part along the design line. So similar to any other part in draping, you want to pin and cut, and then repeat. And then keep moving the cross grain line along your design line in order to keep the grain correct. I'm pinning and cutting about every 1/2 inch to 1 inch, making sure that I'm releasing as much tension as possible. You can see when I do that the collar is just folding and molding around the base. And then let's trim away the excess right to the point. So I'm going to trim away far first. So once you've cut off the excess at the front of your piece of muslin, let's go back to the back neck. And I'm going to move this pin, make it a little lower. I'm probably going to make it only about 1 inch above the center back because I don't want a really high collar stand, but that's something design-wise you can assess. Then I'm going to fold the fabric over, and you'll see how it nicely kind of hangs and folds over that center front. This is where you can decide the shape that you want of your collar. Then you can simply draw on the design shape that you'd like. Depending on how wide of a piece of muslin you used in your initial drape, will have more or less flexibility in that shape. So, seeing that this is the center front, I may decide that I want a pretty traditional shape with the peak right there, and then draw it into that shoulder seam, probably getting a little thinner, up towards the back neck fold. If you decide that you don't have enough fabric at the back neck here, you can always add more on. Just tape it, making sure it's on the same grain line. You can also raise and lower the collar stand. And then simply cut away. And I'll show you what that looks like. Here you have a really cute kind of rounded collar. You can see what it looks like up and how that angle is going to angle away from the center line. But when the shirt is worn, how it's going to fold over. Now, if you have a button front placket in your shirt and the shirt is being worn open, you'll see how much bigger that collar shape is going to get. So it's an important thing to think about when you are designing the entirety of the garment. Before you remove the collar, make sure you mark off all of those points. When you true up this collar design, make sure you add in seam allowances because you're going to cut 2 of this shape and sew around the outside edge. It's also going to be cut on the fold. So you want to make sure that that center back line corresponds to the fold line, and you're cutting 2 pieces on the fold. Let's take that off, and then let's drape our second design. Okay, for this V-neck collar, I'm gonna start off exactly as I did before, matching up the crosshairs of the grain to the back neck. Then I'm gonna pin up as I did before, maybe a little higher on the neck this time. Let's see what that looks like. And then cut and pin around the neckline as before. Now coming around the front here, I'm bringing that cross grain line down to this V-neck shape. It's exactly the same process as the crew neck, but you can see that it allows me to create that same kind of collar on really any seam line, any neckline. Similar as before, I'm going to cut away some of this excess fabric, and then making sure I like where the center back is pinned, I'm going to fold it over and see how that collar folds down. If you want an extra wide collar, it makes sense to start with a much wider piece of muslin. I may decide, you know what, I'm going to do some kind of like rounded collar shape here, and it's going to get thinner. Usually it thins out over the back neck, the side and back neck, so that it's not too bulky around the back of the neck, but that's something that you can decide. And then cut away as before. You can see how easy it is to drape a collar pretty much in any shape you want. This is a very basic one without a separate stand, but it does allow you to still get that fold around the neck. Again, you're gonna make sure you cut 2 of these on the fold, and I would interface 1 depending on the fabric that you're choosing, probably with a lightweight interfacing in order to give it the structure that you want. Thank you so much for following along today with my tutorial on how to drape 2 basic collars. We draped a crew neck and a V-neck collar, and it's very easy, something that you can do in under 5 minutes at home. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.